Okay, hello and welcome to my 2025 Games Wrapped. So for those who are new to the channel, what we do every year is I make tier lists that cover every game that I completed that was released in the current year, and then I also go back and add every game that came out prior to this year that I played in this year and rank them concurrently. So, for the sake of content, we will list everything that I played this year. The list is pretty short comparatively, and then I'll probably do another video covering like the cumulative ranking of everything I played this year. So why don't we get started? I have a list of all of the games that I played in 2025 that were 2025 releases. So I haven't counted them, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I played 18 2025 new releases. LeBaron says I was so Hedgehog coded this year. Yeah, we did a year of Sega, is what I called it. But it was more like a year of Sonic. But that's fine. Anyway, let's get into it, shall we? Okay, so starting off the year, I've kind of randomized the order that I'm gonna go through, but so there's no like order or logic to this. It's literally just a list I wrote in order of what I remembered. Oh, Tainted Grail's on here too, so that's 19 games. 19 games from 2025 I played. So actually almost half. That's actually pretty good. A little bit less than half, but that's fine. Okay. So, RuneScape Dragon Wilds. I am going to start off by placing this in C tier. RuneScape Dragon Wilds is like weird because it was a stealth release. It is a survival crafting game set in the RuneScape universe. It's fully 3D and much higher fidelity than the other RuneScape games. It is pretty interesting. I actually liked it quite a bit personally, but it's also in this weird like nebulous live service early access place. And while I did do all of the content that can be played, it's really just content light still, and what is there is not particularly polished. So starting off the list, I guess RuneScape Dragon Wilds is going to be in my C tier. Another explainer for people who've never watched me do this. Hi Deity Challenger, I just noticed you here. Sonic Hill F. Don't put that evil on me, please. So another note for people who have never seen me do this before. For me, on a scale of 1 to 10, 5 is average. And what I mean by that is a game that is acceptable and good and probably worth playing, but just is unremarkable, is a 5. Lots of games that I love and lots of games that you love are probably 5 out of 10s. If a game is a 6 out of 10 on my scale, that is a recommendation. That is a game I would tell people to play. 5 out of 10 is I will pay full price for it, and that's fine. Anything above that is I will go out of my way to play it. 10 out of 10 games are games that I buy multiple times and go out of my way to buy consoles for. Things like that. So, just so that people are aware, like, that is where this ranking is. Now, you might be saying, this is not a 10 out of 10 list. Why is it on letter grades? And the answer is, because this is better for content. So, most games on this list, most likely, actually, I can't promise that because I played a lot of bad games this year, but most games in a normal year would land in the B or C rank. So don't be surprised if there are very few S and A tier games and fewer D and F tier games. at least in these new releases. So going back to my thoughts on RuneScape Dragon Wilds, RuneScape Dragon Wilds is an interesting game, but it's not quite there yet, and I don't love it. But if you like survival crafting games, this is another one of those. So there you go. My next game on this list is going to be ranked pretty high. This is Elden Ring Night Rain. And this one is going to go into the A tier. I really like Night Rain. I think Night Rain is interesting because it falls between two extremes. On one hand, it is very shocking because it is FromSoft doing a 3-person co-op adventure sort of randomized roguelike in the Souls formula. And when they announced this game, people did not think it would be good. People immediately were like, "Oh, this is gonna be bad. This is terrible. I hate it. Why are they doing a live service game?" And then it came out, and it was like actually really thoughtfully designed, with a lot of really substantial additive lore and experimental design, and like it earned its place in the FromSoft oeuvre, in the pantheon of Elden Ring. But the weird thing about Night Rain is that like it also isn't what the best version of what people thought it would be. Oh, thank you for the gift subs, Coco. I'm glad that I got the gift subs alert to work, even though the pop-up doesn't like properly show up for it. I'll have to fiddle with that, but thank you very much for those gift subs. And what I mean by this is when I describe Elden Ring Night Rain as what if you had a cooperative Elden Ring roguelike randomizer, that makes Night Rain sound a lot more variable than it is. In reality, I believe now with the DLC, there's still only two maps, really. There's shifting worlds, which add variations onto the map, but the actual map layout itself is pretty static. Camps will always spawn in the same spots for the most part. It's just what kind of camp they are changes. So it's less like a Souls randomizer and more like, to draw a comparison to another game I played this year but didn't come out this year, it's more like Dead by Daylight maps, where like the individual cells on the map can shift between a few variants, but there really aren't a lot of them, and you end up kind of learning the map pretty freaking well after 6 or 7 plays. It's very weird. There is a lot less randomization in Night Rain than I think a lot of people who are really hard believers of it wanted. And that is a detriment to it. I do really wish there was far more randomization. There are also less weapons and less items than you would expect. It does not have the full catalog of weapons, items, enemies, or bosses. And as a result, for a game that I put 75 hours into, probably more actually, and will be probably going back to for the DLC that added new bosses and new mechanics and new items and stuff, for a game that I did that for, there just really wasn't as much content as I would have loved. Now, it is designed this way on purpose because it is designed to be a finite game. It is structured the way that it is structured to make way for its storytelling, which it has a lot of. I mean, this game has probably the most cogent and clear and direct narrative of any Souls game. It is extremely easy to get into the character driven stories. They like have cutscenes and dialogue. Every character is fleshed out, which is not something I was expecting. I was expecting the Nightfarers to be poorly developed, like hero shooter characters. They are not that. They are full ass fledged characters with character arcs. And it was very intriguing to play that. So in the end, Night Rain was a very interesting experiment. It is experimental. It has some rough edges, but it is extremely good and highly worth playing, especially if you like Elden Ring, if you like Souls-likes, if you like to play them in co-op, which I know a lot of people do. Like, get over your aversion to the idea that this is Elden Ring Fortnite and give it a try, because it is a very good game. And it is weirdly the most approachable Souls-like, maybe, and way more approachable even than Elden Ring. So that's my take on that game. I really dug it. I thought it was really good. All right, now for a really bad game that I played. Bleach Rebirth of Souls. Bleach Rebirth of Souls is a arena fighter masquerading as a 2D fighting game that summarizes and goes over Bleach, the anime. And there was a lot of hype behind it when it came out, because people were like, oh my god, are they actually going to like make a good Bleach fighting game? And the answer is no. This game was really bad. It was just very mechanically shallow. I think within the first day, multiple infinites were found, one of which was literally done just by pressing the A button 2 times in a row, pausing, and then pressing the A button 2 times in a row again with Mayuri. Which is just really weird. It's just a really unpolished, really bad arena fighter. This was weird, a weird year for fighting games. And especially a weird year for arena fighters, because there were quite a few, like, once again, like, elevated arena fighters. I believe there was, like, Dragon Ball Z, sparking 100% or whatever. That game was also just an arena fighter that was allegedly really bad. There was like a One Piece one, I think, that was really bad. There's this Bleach one. This Bleach one is the only one I played, admittedly. Or, yeah. So the Bleach one was the only one I played. And I played it because Blazer wanted to play it, because he really likes Bleach. And I started reading Bleach this year, and I was like, sure, I'll get into it. We played it for like 3 days, and then we're like, this kind of sucks. And so, yeah, that's that. There's really not much to say about it. I played Uryu, who is the other S tier character in that game. Unfortunately, the Fox Man, is like F tier, so I didn't play as him. Game about digging a hole. I really enjoyed this game. It is hardly a video game. This game is a way to waste 2 hours while stimming. It is a game where you dig straight down, and then you walk through 2 rooms, and it's over. But it was a fun time to stream. There's a little bit of resource management in it. For those who are not aware of this game, it is a game where you dig a hole. You buy a house and you dig a hole in the backyard, and then you sell the ore that you find to upgrade your digging things to make them dig faster. And you upgrade your jetpack to fly higher. And the only real mechanic is managing your fuel for your jetpack and your battery for your shovel, and you have to make money to refill it. Yeah, and that's really all there is to say about it. It had a cute ending. It was not particularly noteworthy in any other capacity. I would not go out of my way to play this game, but it is very cheap, and it's a cute game to stream. It is a streamer game. That's kind of what... that's kind of all there is to say about it. It's a game for streamers. And I have mostly avoided streamer slop this year. Which is a funny statement to make when I am about to rank this next game. Peak. I don't think there was a single game this year that blew up quite the way Peak did. Peak is, I think, for lack of a better word, peak friend slop game. It is like the platonic ideal of a game you play with your friends, like with almost no goal or like need to even succeed. If there is any game I have ever played where like having like not achieving your win condition is still a win condition, Peak is the best one of those, because no matter what you do in Peak, you're going to have a wacky, fun, goofy time. It is weird because Peak has all of the elements to be like the most stressful game ever, where it's like, it's a game on a time limit with limited resources, with gauges that are like constantly draining. It is pathologic if pathologic was absurdly fun and whimsical and joyful. And I love it for that. I had more fun this year playing Peak than I have had playing most games ever. Like, and that's, if you know me, you know I don't like multiplayer games very much. I don't like co-op multiplayer. I don't like goofy, haha, fun games. Peak actually just rules. Peak is an awesome video game that is deserving of all of the praise it has gotten. I cannot wait for the future of this game. I love to see everything that they've added and everything that they've done. It's great. It's a really excellent video game. And if you've been on the fence for it somehow, and you have people who will play it with you, go for it, because it's awesome. And I also played a lot of single player Peak because I just like the puzzle of climbing the mountain and exploring all the biomes. Like, it's got a little bit of everything. It is surprisingly well designed for a game that was basically a game jam game. And yeah, so hats off to the developers of Peak, because good ass game. Good ass video game. All right. Next game. This is probably gonna be the first game in S tier. I'm still kind of deciding where it lands on the tier list, but it's like somewhere between S and A. I need to make a choice, and I'm just gonna make a choice. I think Hell Is Us is it's like the lowest S tier game on this list. Hell Is Us is a extremely bleak, dystopian, apocalyptic, geopolitical, Civil War Souls-light. And that description is absolutely insane, but if you play the game for 5 minutes, you'll know exactly what I'm saying. So Hell Is Us takes place in a sort of Eurasian, sort of Eastern European UN hut zone that is undergoing a almost stalker-esque, roadside picnic-esque time anomaly in the midst of a civil war between two religious theostates, I guess, is like the best way to describe it. Hollow says Yugoslavia simulator. Actually, yes. It is like very obviously based around conflicts in areas like Bosnia, Yugoslavia, just the Czech Republic, I think, or Czechia. I don't remember the proper modern name of that. Apologies. Now, this game is a Souls-lite. And what I mean by that is that it has all of the mechanics of a Souls game that you would expect. Light and heavy attack, a dodge roll, stamina management, also kind of Cypress, yes, or Kupris, I believe maybe is how the locals say it. I'm not sure. Kupri, I'm not sure. As I was saying, so it has all the Souls mechanics, centralized currency, environmental and lore-based storytelling, very arcane character quests, and just like very incidental moment-to-moment characters that you can like find, or they're dead, or whatever, like depending on what you do in the game. However, it is a Souls-lite. This game has save points, and it also has like no actual penalty to death. When you die, you just respawn. So you don't lose anything. You just try again. This would I think it also has difficulty levels, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. But this would normally bother me because Souls-like games really live or die on how strict they are. And I don't mean in terms of difficulty, I mean in terms of like how they approach ludonarrative cohesion. Normally, a Souls-like is built around the tension of making progress and risk versus reward. I've said many times before that all Souls games are fundamentally about the interplay of greed and selflessness. That is how every From Software Souls game is designed and written, including Bloodborne. Dark Souls and Demon Souls are all about, will you link the fire or will you not? Will you invade or will you do co-op? How much are you willing to help people or hinder them based on the rewards that you can obtain from either killing them or doing their quest lines? Like, this is a very strong thematic through line to all of these games. And it ties even to their storytelling, right? Even with Bloodborne, will you pursue knowledge no matter the cost and transcend your humanity, or will you preserve your humanity and not hurt people for the sake of knowledge? Corpses should be left well alone, as Maria says. But oh, how those secrets beckon so sweetly. All of these games are that. Hell Is Us kind of takes a different approach by tying in this sort of time anomaly and using that to justify a lot of its ludonarrative. Hell Is Us is a game fundamentally about like feudal, endless struggle. It is a game about constantly making forward progress, and that forward progress not being mutually exclusive with destruction and loss and failure. As the future marches forward, it too looks back. That is probably the thesis of the game. I have to sit and think about it a little bit more. But it is also, without a doubt, like one of the most depressing and bleak video games I have ever played. and maybe like it's like pathologic tier when it comes to like just kind of how hopeless and fucked up the world it portrays is. If you have a sensitive stomach for Civil War narratives, especially in the current world, a lot of comparisons will be drawn to like the Israel-Palestine conflict as well. Like if you can stomach that, then play it. Just be very aware that it is like deeply fucked up, like mass graves and dead children fucked up. So yeah. A lot of people talk negatively about Hell Is Us. Yeah, so there was a lot of conversation about this game, I think, around the topic of it being like, it was sort of advertised as like a hardcore game for hardcore gamers. They leaned really hard into this idea of like, there's no map, there's quests, you'll fail, you'll need to replay it multiple times to see everything. And that is true, but I think unfortunately that primed its audience for expecting it to be more difficult than it is, and also to be more Souls-like than it is. In reality, Hell Is Us is very approachable in terms of its difficulty. It's also like extremely clear about what it wants you to do all the time, which not a lot of people really expected when the guy who made it, the director, was comparing it to like Morrowind, with its like lack of quest markers and need to listen to actual directions. You really don't need to do much of that. So yeah. However, I really liked it. I thought its world was very interesting. It obviously is a little bit derivative. It takes from a lot of other media. A really good point of comparison, not necessarily plot-wise, but like aesthetically and directorially, is the German series Dark. It's very much like that show. So if you like Dark, you might like Hell Is Us if you can stomach very gritty Civil War narratives. So enjoy that. Enjoy Hell Is Us, because it's really cool. It is a really, really cool game. Let's talk about another fun game that I played this year that was just fun, but was like a good kind of fun. And that was Split Fiction. Split Fiction was a really cute, really twee game about playing co-op with your friends. If you've played other games by this team, whose name I can't remember exactly, it's like that. It's like A Way Out. It's like It Takes Two. It is a game built for couch co-op. Oh, hi, Blazer's here. Blazer's is starring me. The playthrough of Split Fiction was really fun, and the story was really cute. I do think that it sort of stumbles a little bit. It's a little bit long in the tooth, especially if you're doing everything. The narrative, you kind of see where it's going pretty much immediately. And it suffers from its breadth, which is to say that every single level tries a new mechanic, which is really fun for a co-op game, and really fun when all of the levels are like 2 hours long. But the stress of that is that as the game goes on, the mechanics get less and less refined. Not all of them are hits. Some of them are a little tedious. Hazelight. Thank you, Liberian. Yes, that is the name of the studio. Not all the mechanics really gel perfectly together, and they're not really well developed, which you would expect for a game that is really just meant to be a theme park. And as a fun sort of Pixar-esque journey through surface level science fiction and fantasy, Split Fiction is a real fun theme park to spend a day in. So highly recommend Split Fiction if you like co-op games, if you want to play co-op games with people. Is it the best game ever? No. Was it really in the running for like game of the year? Not really. But was it worth playing? Absolutely. It was a very fun time. And it was relatively polished. It's like a kid's puzzle platformer, but executed well. Yes. There is one thing to say about Split Fiction, and it is that it has one of the coolest finales I've ever played in a video game. The final 20-ish minutes of Split Fiction is one of the best levels in a video game I have played in a very long time. The secret laser level as well, which I didn't play, but I watched Brew play, is also incredible. Very similar to the Master Trial from Astrobot. So if you're interested in that, highly recommend looking into Split Fiction. Rosu says I should play this with Clay. You should. You guys would get a kick out of this game. It also pays homage to a lot of other fiction, like not just books, but like TV and music videos and things like that. So highly recommend it if you like the sound of that. All right, next game, Mega Bonk. I'm gonna catch some flack for this one. Mega Bonk is in the D tier. Listen, guys. Listen. So I played. Cause says I was expecting F. No way. No. Mega Bonk is better than F tier. It's not terrible. Again, D tier isn't necessarily terrible. It's stuff that I think isn't great. I was gonna say good, but that's harsh. Because I thought Digging a Hole was perfectly good for what it is. And I think that Mega Bonk is that as well. So for those who are not aware, Mega Bonk is a third-person shooter take on the Survivors Garlic-like genre of games. It is insufferably memey. That doesn't actually rank it down for me, but it was something that I found to be extremely grating. It constantly references memes, lol random cheese rar XD style. Like when your character dies, it says like, you dead, DED. And then under it in little letters, it says like, him skill issue maybe. Like, it's that kind of game. Every single item has like a reference to a meme. The moldy cheese common item is like 40% chance to poison someone. Moldy cheese, my beloved, less than 3. And like, that kills me. Like, I wish there was a mod to just like shut the game up. But that's just aesthetics stuff. Visually, it's very cool looking. My issue with Mega Bonk, as a Survivors connoisseur that I am, I think every single one of these games that I've, or every single Wrapped I've done, I've ranked at least one Survivors like. This game has the absolute most insane unlock curve of any Survivors game. It drives me insane. So you start the game with 2 characters. One is the fox that gets luck with every level and starts with a really weak fire blast. And the other is an armored knight that walks really slowly that starts with a sword. And you might be thinking, that sounds like the start of Vampire Survivors, because that's kind of the start of Vampire Survivors. The problem is, you will be playing with just those characters and just the base kit of like 7 items that have no synergy for the first 6 hours of the game. Because the way you unlock and progress in Mega Bonk is every level has multiple tiers, and you can't progress to the next act of the stage until you beat the first tier for the first time. Then you get tier 2. You can't get to tier 3 until you beat tier 2. And you beat tier 2 by beating tier 1 and 2 in the same run. You cannot just progress forward in Mega Bonk, you must reset your run. And part of this is to get you to grind for silver, the game's currency. You get silver, you accrue it at an incredibly, excruciatingly slow pace, which is compounded by the fact that the starting items and starting characters have absolutely no synergy with each other. How do you get more items, you ask? Well, it's simple, chat. You unlock achievements, and you do achievement conditions, like every other survivor's like. Except you don't. Then you have to meet their unlock conditions, which usually requires you to use other items you've unlocked. But in order to unlock things, once you have... The terminology here is going to get weird, so I'm going to start changing it in a second. But in Mega Bonk, you don't unlock things. You unlock the ability to purchase things. How do you purchase things, you say? With silver. So you constantly hit a bottleneck where you are trying desperately to make a run work, to hunt for achievements, to earn the privilege to buy resources and items that make the game function so that you can hunt for more achievements that serve to help you grind to hit that same bottleneck over and over and over and over again. Mega Bonk notably has unbalanced difficulty. It does. So that is also one of the most fucking frustrating aspects of the game. So many of the survivor likes in general suffer from this issue where there's sort of like a meta build you want to build for that is just the best at handling what these games throw at you, which is quantity. Quantity is a struggle in a lot of survivors likes, where you're trying to mass clear AoE enemies while avoiding damage, while taking care of their increasingly higher numbers. How do you do this? You stack attack speed, crit rate, and projectile count. And by doing this, you basically are smashing enemies with a crit damage multiplier that then hits enemies so many times that you're always proccing crits and always proccing on-hit effects that you get from items. And it just clears the game in front of you. So 95% of effects in these games are things you use once for the achievement, and then whatever it unlocks, and then you just go back to proccing crit, projectile count, and attack speed constantly. Which means that characters that are good at doing that, or have passives that cover other gaps in the game, make it easier for you to just play the meta of the game. Which is exceedingly frustrating in Mega Bonk because you need to rely on that to clear stages well or effectively. You can clearly clear everything with the worst characters. There are crazy people who do that. But because you're relying on the same strategy across basically any character, just to beat the levels, you are spending less time experimenting, which makes unlocking achievements harder. Which means you just grind more. And it's exhausting. Leopard says, arguably the Fox character is the best in the game since his passive is to gain luck, which is a stat that more or less influences the RNG in your favor. Yes. So, when I was playing the game, I was originally leaning into Clank, who is a robot that increases crit chance every level. And that's like a fine way to play the game, and it will make you very powerful, but you have to rely on weak items because your luck increases are very sporadic. I actually found that my most powerful build was playing as the Fox, praying that I got good weapons and passives from shrines, which are a mechanic that is somewhat unique to Mega Bonk that I'm not going to get into, and chests. And then my tomes, I always picked up, this is going to sound crazy, but EXP tome to increase my EXP gain, luck tome to increase my luck, and gold tome to increase my gold. By amassing these resources, I'm able to pick up increasingly powerful items, which is where most of your passive effects come from. And by doing this, you ultimately just steamroll into having legendary upgrades on everything, way more gold than you can ever use, just constant damage from the millions of random passive effects you get. And because you're leveling up so fast from the EXP gain, you're rolling the dice on your epic RNG more and more often. So the weirdest aspect of this is that, in a weird way, the best way to play Mega Bonk is to find a way to circumvent its mechanics and not do what the game is asking you to do, which is to lean into each character's mechanics. With the exception of the very first character that you get, whose most optimal way of playing is to depend on RNG in a way that is already exacerbated by the RNG-heavy mechanics of this genre. And as a result, getting through this game was a fucking slog, and I was so over it by the time I decided to quit. I will say that I think that a lot of its experimental mechanics were really interesting. I really like that it's a third-person kind of Risk of Rain take on Survivors games. I think the aesthetics are cool for the most part, with the exception of all the memes. I think that a lot of the weapons are interesting, or the tomes as well. Like, the way that you progress is really cool, but I also think it's exceedingly frustrating to have to grind through so much of the early game, because a lot of Survivors likes are really good at giving you an on-ramp, unlocking characters quickly, unlocking new weapons, unlocking new items, unlocking new secret win conditions, doing things that are like constantly making you explore more. The example of a Survivors like that I really like is Halls of Torment, which I played a lot of this year. I played a lot of Halls of Torment 1.0. I ranked it last year, so I'm not going to rank it this year, but I really like Halls of Torment. I think that game is constantly expanding, constantly giving you new things to try, trying new things. Weapons feel different, like the same weapon feels different on multiple characters. That's how interesting it is. Mega Bonk is not that way. And that is frustrating. And as a result, that's why I rank it in D tier. Xbox Clown says, a game you might like is Deep Rock Galactic Survivor. That's a great Survivor game. I probably won't play that because I actually don't really like Deep Rock Galactic very much. So, okay. Next game of the year to end all games of all years. It is Expedition 33. Or Claire Obscure Expedition 33. Holy fuck, what is there to say about this game that has not been said already? Claire Obscure is to JRPGs what Baldur's Gate 3 is to CRPGs. It is a game who takes every single mechanic from every single JRPG that has ever been abandoned by every other mainstay of the genre, and goes, hey, wait, maybe the genre has been stagnant for 20 years because you keep not expanding on them and not innovating and not building off of all of the cool work that you've done that everyone likes. Why do we keep remaking the same game? Please do something with all of these cool ideas and mechanics. And somehow it manages to blend all of these into maybe one of the most ludonarratively cohesive games, the most full packages of any video game ever made. This game is brimming with content. Literally all of it is good. I played 85 hours of this game, grinded every character to level 100, got every single Lumina and Picto equipped on every single character. That is how good this game is. And that is before you even get to how incredible the story is and how amazing the game's, like, overall performances are. Rishan says, except gestural volleyball. I will talk about gestural volleyball, actually. This game has more exploratory charm than any video game I have played in the last forever. This game has fucking mini games in it, and their rewards are cosmetics, but they fucking rule. And yes, Zept brings up one point. Expedition 33 is a bit unbalanced. My one complaint with Clair Obscur Expedition 33 deals with a slight mechanical foible. This will be a small mechanical spoiler. I'm trying very hard not to spoil anything in this game, but I will spoil this one mechanic. I played the game on Expert, which I think is the best way to play the game. Not because hard game good, but because it means every hit is also a resource. What do I mean by this? Characters usually just fucking die when they're hit. This becomes the kind of biggest aspect of the difficulty curve as the game goes on. But the reason why I think this is good is that it allows you to strategize around who survives and who doesn't, especially because the game doesn't really have like a lot of items. It has only a few meaningful items, the kind that you would want to use in a JRPG that you wouldn't hoard forever. That's a big thing. You will never have enough HP. That's very true. And just as a result of that, you have to really play around synergizing your party, exploring what is available to your party at any given time, and really thinking through encounters. The game has a lot of really intriguing buildcraft. Even at high level, there are arguments about what builds are the best, which I think is really interesting. The game also has a parry and dodge mechanic that allows you to have a skill ceiling, which is crazy. There are people that do no hit runs of this game, and there are people who do all hit runs of this game. This game is crazy. It is unfathomable that this game exists. But my one issue with this game is that very early on, you hit a 9,999 damage cap. So early on, in fact, that it becomes very clear, very early, that you will break that damage cap at some point, because enemies you can fight early on have millions of HP. And what you might think is a forced failed encounter is not, because this game plays with and innovates off of other JRPGs, and so just by following the game's language as it speaks to you, you learn very quickly, this is going to do something with this, everything is possible, I just need to find a way to break the damage cap. And what I will say is that ludonarratively, it makes sense why this is here and how it is, how it is broken, like, makes a lot of sense and is very poignant. But fuck if you shouldn't have been able to break that damage cap earlier, and holy hell, does it come late in a game where you then just immediately backtrack to do all of the side content that was unfeasible to do when you first encountered it, because you could not break the damage cap that you obviously knew was going to be breakable in the last third of the game. Oh, that is literally my only complaint about this game. I'm going to talk very briefly about AI and generative AI with regards to this video game. This is a topic that I really don't want to talk about, and it's a topic that I think people are really unnuanced and myopic and reactionary, and only read headlines about this game. You may have read that this game lost some awards because of its use of generative AI. And that is an extremely ludicrous and very misleading headline. And I know people are going to disagree with this, and that's fine, but this game's use of generative AI, I think, is very indicative of the current state of generative AI and how people are very performatively against it without any actual ideals. And it has nothing to do with it being a minor or major use of AI. What I will say is this game allegedly, during pre-planning, according to director Guillaume Broche, the team experimented with using some generative AI early in use, in development. This was in 2022, 2022, when these assets were created, during the whiteboxing and pre-planning stages of the game's alpha, when he was originally kind of pitching it to his bigger development team at Sandfall. And they were kind of moving forward. However, the team themselves, artists included, decided very early that they did not like generative AI. They did not like the output in the results, even as placeholders. And they removed all of them, except one, by accident, that made it through to release. Not because an artist lost their job and was replaced by AI, but because an artist made a new texture that was not put on the asset that it was meant to texture. In a game with thousands of textures, a single AI asset from the pre-planning early phases got through to the final stage of release and was removed from the game within a week after the developers said, "Hey, this is what happened. We did not intend for this to be here. Thank you for pointing it out. We are removing it and replacing it with the human-made, artist-made, fully paid for human effort texture that we made because it sucks. Thank you." The reason why I am irritated about the AI discussion in this game, or around this game, is that, one, the headlines are misleading and vindictive, and really only exist to find a way to disqualify this game from the accolades it has received. Primarily from people who are rightfully emotionally angry and righteously against the use of generative AI as it pertains to the loss of human labor and work. And that totally makes sense. But what irks me is that I think the way that Sandfall experimented with AI and then decided AI was bad and actively chose to rectify its use, removed it from the game, and then continued to pay its artists, all of whom it was already paying and did not sacrifice labor for the sake of AI, the fact that that is how they responded to AI use, is that not literally what people want? The answer is no. People don't want the world to look at AI and realize its faults and then lean harder into human inspiration and creativity and labor. What they want is to be morally righteous about crusading against AI use, decrying anything that touches it because there must be an in-group and an out-group. It cannot be seen that this game ever touched AI. If it did, this game is sullied and bad and evil, and we must hate it because it is evil, and the revolution will come soon. And if you like this game, or like any game that has ever experimented with AI, then you deserve nothing but the guillotine, and we must eat the rich. That is how reactionary people are with regards to AI use. And it makes sense why. It is an existential threat to creativity, and it is full of plagiarism. But the answer to that problem is not to hate and exacerbate and hyperbolize the use of AI in relation to the creative process. It is to understand AI and move away from it deliberately, which is literally what Sandfall Interactive did. And that's why the discussion around AI on Clair Obscur is fucking stupid. And, frankly, overstated. We must learn to forgive admitted mistakes. We must learn to let people learn and grow. And, I mean, frankly, the AI discourse around Clair Obscur is entirely performative and only exists as an extension of the outrage against Clair Obscur that was brewing when it first started becoming popular, which was generally centered around the fact that it was being praised as an indie game, but actually, it isn't a 33-person team. They hired contractors and QA testers, so actually it's AA. No. This game is an indie game. It is okay to quantify a team as its core team. Really, all of this discourse is just there to try and disqualify a thing, because it is cool to hate something that is popular, and it is good to be morally righteous and burn down the world in your crusade against what you have perceived as undeniably evil and, original sin. So, there you go. That's my take on Expedition 33 and on generative AI. If you have anything to say about it, please post a comment for engagement, and I will delete it later. Thank you. Moving on from the best game of the year, let's talk about my next very high-rated game that I really liked a lot, surprisingly, that I played on my own in, like, a crazy rush towards the end of the year in an attempt to make sure that I hit 52 games in 52 weeks. Baby Steps is the new game by Bennett Foddy and Nate Cusillo and someone else whose last name I think might be Bach. I forgot their names. Rishan says, do deleted comments still help engagement? Yes. This game is a streamer game that secretly is an existential horror game about finding meaning and purpose in life and having thwarted masculinity and sort of how people toxically make life harder for themselves for no reason. And the truth is, this game rocks on every level, and I loved it, and not once did it frustrate me. This game, much like Bennett Foddy's previous games, QWOP and Getting Over It, was pitched to people as a rage game and a streamer game because its mechanics involve you learning how to move a person manually, move their legs manually. In truth, this game is a puzzle platformer. And much like Getting Over It before this game, I fucking loved this game. I found this game so incredibly zen, so incredibly peaceful. I loved working out how to maneuver. This is so close to my puzzle game of the year. It is literally within a striking distance of Blueprints. which I guess is a spoiler for later in the tier list, but I fucking loved Baby Steps. One warning about this game is that it is full of uncensored donkey cock. So beware that. But other than that, if you have patience, you should play it, because this game has a lot of things to say about how we make life harder for ourselves and then punish ourselves for that, how we can't own up to asking for help or needing help, and how we often bury ourselves in our kind of perceived insufficiencies and inadequacies, only to then be buried by the massive challenges we take on in order to offset what we perceive as our inadequacies, just because we cannot admit to ourselves that, you know, we're having trouble. So underneath the frat bro jokes and memes, this game fucking rules. This game has so much heart. It is existentially dreadful. There is sort of a purgatory metaphor in the game. I'm not really gonna talk more about that in depth because I don't want to spoil the plot, which is actually surprisingly interesting. But underneath all the crass humor, this game is I think, a very prescient kind of introspective narrative. And if I had a single thing to compare it to, Baby Steps is the Swiss Army Man of video games. So if you like that movie, which if you like good art, you would like that movie, you should play Baby Steps. It is worth it. I hope I sold this game. I hope I sold this game well. Let's talk about another game that is going to be hard to rate. And I really considered having a tier for fighting games, but I can't. So, Fatal Fury, City of the Wolves is a revival of the Fatal Fury / Garo franchise of games. It is a traditional 2D fighter, and when I say traditional, I mean this game is designed like a fighting game from the 90s. It is exactly what you expect a sequel to Garo Mark of the Wolves. It is exactly what you expect that would be, and it is fucking awesome. It is harder than a lot of other fighting games that you would play nowadays, with all of their comeback mechanics and, you know, extra flashing moves and stuff. It is just a down and out, gritty 2D fighter that harkens back to the era of really excellent fighting games, and if you like fighting games, you should play it. There are some dubious ethical questions about SNK and its ownership by the Saudi Arabian government. There are dubious ethical questions about its guest characters like Cristiano Ronaldo and Salvatore Ganacci. But what I will say is that this game fucking rules and is really hard to get good at, but it's really good. And its ranked mode is the ranked mode I spent the second most time in this year. I really wish I had more to say about Fatal Fury. I don't. It's just really good. It's a good fighting game. You should give it a try if you want to. Evo this year for Fatal Fury was really good. You can watch the top 8. Okay. This is a fun one. This one's probably going to get me in a little bit of hot water as well. But where is it? Labyrinth of the Demon King. Labyrinth of the Demon King is probably here. So Labyrinth of the Demon King is a first-person dungeon crawler survival horror game. It is developed by a solo indie dev. And it's basically, what if you put Kingsfield and Resident Evil in a feudal Japanese warlord's estate? It's really cool. It's got really cool lore, great dialogue from its characters, and I really love the surprise ludonarrative sort of ending. The reason why it's ranked so low in this list is that it is extremely shallow. It kind of has an issue where it gives you a lot of weapons and items to work with, but most of them are useless even by the time you get them. You really only need 1 or 2 weapons in the whole game. The balance of those weapons is really weird. It is extremely easy to become resource rich in that game. So as a result, the survival horror tension of the game sort of falls away. And even though the game is only like 6 hours long, it kind of drags, because even as you're making it through this survival horror mansion layout, you're kind of doing it in a hub and spoke way, where you're going to each of these like 4 towers, and they're kind of all self-contained within each other. And again, you're mostly using the same weapons the whole game through. The level up system is really half-baked, and as a result, combat becomes really repetitive, especially because the enemies respawn. Respawning enemies in a survival horror game is a thing I really have learned that I do not like. And as a result, this game kind of drops down a few tiers from, I think, the titans of the genre. I know a lot of people really love this game, and we're really leaning into it because its aesthetics are really cool, and its aesthetics are really cool. And as a indie dev, solo, Kingsfield-inspired game, really cool. Really great release, and highly recommended playing. Just know it doesn't really have the same legs that, like, an endlessly replayable Resident Evil or, you know, anything like that would have. It's good, just not my favorite survival horror game this year. Speaking of other survival horror games, let's rank the other survival horror game I played this year. Post-Trauma. Post-Trauma is a survival horror throwback, PS2-esque survival horror game that really leans into that generation's aesthetics. It is extremely puzzle heavy, and not actually that combat heavy. And that might sound really great, but its puzzles are kind of bad. Its performances and voice acting are across the board terrible. Its movement feels really bad, and its environments are all really small and really tedious to explore. This game is switching between a PT-esque first-person sort of puzzle horror game and a third-person, you know, Silent Hill 2-esque PS2 era. I say Silent Hill 2, it's closer to something like a Fatal Frame or a maybe even like a Haunting Ground or something like that. Not Haunting Ground. I'm trying to think of like a non-running horror game, maybe more closer to Rule of Rose. But yeah, I mean, this game has like kind of a nonsensical story, really isn't polished, doesn't look very good. Its story is just really like what you see is what you get. Yeah, I don't know. I just, I thought this game was really weak. And I know that people are going to be upset about that, because they really loved, this game, but I didn't. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I didn't like this game. I thought it was bad. So there's that. I just realized I actually miscounted. There's only 56 games on this list, and I once again have added an extra game. I ranked Shin Megami Tensei Vengeance on this list, even though I ranked it last year. So I'm not gonna put that one there. It is 56 games, not 57. Okay. Let's talk about the other best survival horror game of the year. Silent Hill F. Holy smokes, Silent Hill F. Silent Hill F is probably here in A tier. I loved this game. I thought this game had an amazing narrative. So this is the first Silent Hill that takes place outside of Silent Hill. It takes place in Ebisugaoka, Japan. It also is the first Silent Hill game developed by Ryu Kishi, or written by Ryu Kishi 07, who is the guy who is behind Higurashi no Nakukoro ni, Kekonia no Nakukoro ni, Higanbana no Saku Yoru ni, and Umineko no Nakukoro ni. This game's narrative is incredible. It is a story about 1960s gender roles and expectations and societal norms in Japan. It is about the slow and constant encroachment of Western belief and the ever-changing theocratic ideological systems that govern people's lives, that are based in nothing but different forms of tradition. Even though people are constantly trying to form new ways to live, there's always going to be an interplay between those new ways and the old ways, no matter how much the old ways replaced other old ways. This game is a fantastic survival horror game and a gigantic return to form for Silent Hill, just like Silent Hill 2 Remake before it. I think this is the best Silent Hill game since Silent Hill 1, 2, and 3. What I will say is that it is an interesting experiment because, like all of Ryukishi's other games, he wants you to replay them. And what I mean by that is he wants you to, do the loop. Just like in Higurashi, at the end of one playthrough, you are not done, you go to the next chapter, which is another playthrough with almost the same exact setup, but some variables change. And the irritating thing about Silent Hill F is that the first New Game Plus run has a lot of small details and a lot of circumstantial differences that are really enriching and help increase your understanding of the game and its narrative and what it is saying and doing and what the actual objective plot of the game even is. And then you have to play it 3 more times. And each time you replay it, those changes do continue to change, but less and less and less as you continually meet ending conditions later into the game and are forced to replay huge swaths of it just to achieve the ending conditions and see the new endings and the new cutscenes that come in the last 30 or 40 or so minutes of this, 7-hour long video game. Thankfully, they did patch out some of the required combat hallways so that you can make those runs go a little bit faster, and they added in lower difficulties to make subsequent replays easier. But it's very frustrating because Silent Hill F does an interesting thing with combat in that it is also a Souls-light. You have stamina management. You have very heavy combat, light, heavy attacks, counters, parries, dodges, perfect dodges. Which sounds crazy for a Silent Hill game. It's very similar to Homecoming, which is not a very good Silent Hill game. It's just Homecoming, but better. But, again, I like the combat. I liked the combat, especially on my first playthrough. It's just that the amount of combat you have to do and the amount of enemy gauntlets you had to go through post-release patch was exhausting and sort of artificially padded the runtime. I really, really wish that this game took more of the Nier Automata approach of every playthrough is functionally different, and then when they start to branch, it is easy to go back to the exact branch point and get the true endings instead of having to replay the game again. That is my biggest complaint about the game. It's great, really worth experiencing. You just need to tolerate a tiny bit of tedium. So, there you go. That's Silent Hill F. Best Silent Hill game since Silent Hill 3, not counting 2 Remake, which is just incredible. Let's talk about a remake that looks like a remaster, but is actually a ground-up remake. Final Fantasy Tactics, the Ivalice Chronicles, probably like right here. Wow, one of the best stories in Final Fantasy gets a really incredible remake with full voice acting and rebalanced classes and slightly different skills and progression, and some small new additions. Ivalice Chronicles is fucking stunning. This game is fantastic. It has all of the same overall balance and grind issues that Final Fantasy Tactics has always had. You're going to spend a lot of time repeating encounters and grinding job points. But this game rules. Its narrative is excellent. Its voice acting elevates an already amazingly well-written and well-localized game. The voice acting in this game might be my second favorite voice acting of the year, behind Clair Obscur and just above Silent Hill F. It is that good. If you have never played Final Fantasy Tactics before, you should absolutely play it. As Leper is putting in the chat right now, it is a Shattered Grail-like. Yes, it is very... my love of Final Fantasy Tactics is well known. My favorite Final Fantasy character out of all of them is Delita Hyrule, who is the deuteragonist of this game / antagonist of this game. I love this game. I've always loved this game, and it has influenced me my whole life. But this remake is just about as perfect a remake as you can get. It really understands what made Final Fantasy Tactics special, and you should play it. You should play it. That's my take. That's my take on Ivalice Chronicle. Let's talk about my next favorite game of the year. That is actually a game that came out in 2006. That is insane that I'm ranking it this high. But Virtua Fighter 5 Revo World Stage is the latest release of 2006's Virtua Fighter 5. Was it 2006 or 2007? I don't remember. Virtua Fighter 5 is the just prime perfect 3D fighter, and might also be just the perfect fighting game. Except now it has rollback netcode and got rebalanced, and now has a really amazing single player and has great customization. The Virtua Fighter 5 is like probably my favorite fighting game I've ever played. And that's crazy because I only ever got into Virtua Fighter this year, and I normally don't like 3D fighters. I do not like Tekken, and I do not like Soul Calibur. But the way that this game's systems are laid out really prioritizes knowledge and mind games over belligerent aggression. And I'm saying that as someone who plays the aggressive rushdown character in this game. I main Sarah. Virtua Fighter 5 has a relatively small cast, but it just does everything perfect. Every character feels substantially different from each other. And every stage makes a difference. Stage shape and walls or not walls or half walls all make a difference in the way that it would in a Tekken game. But this game wants you to get up close and personal and make decisions on the fly. It wants you to predict what your opponent is doing, because if you can actually actively predict what your opponent is going to do, there is always an answer to what they are doing. And the sort of, it's called Nitaku, but it's also known as two alternate for forced choice gameplay, which is basically like there are going to be situations where you mathematically must make a one out of two options, and you have to predict what the opponent is going to do, or else you get blown up. This is the pragmatic, platonic ideal of fighting games. You have to understand your opponent to win, and if you understand your opponent, literally the skill difference doesn't matter. You can beat your opponent with just punches, just tapping a single button if you know what they're going to do. And that is what makes Virtua Fighter 5 Revo World Stage the best version of Virtua Fighter 5 and probably the best 3D fighter currently in the running. And also my favorite fighting game that I played this year, probably my favorite fighting game of all time, maybe just up there, just really high up there. So I kind of can't believe I'm ranking that there. It is technically just an enhanced port remaster of a 2006 game, but I'm ranking it here because I really like it. Okay. Oh, okay. Oso Hero. Bottom of F tier. This is a cute Metroidvania porn game that I bought to support the creator. It's a furry porn game and it's on Steam. You can punch bad guys or have sex with them. It's got cute porn animations. As a game, it is tedious and bad, but who cares? It's cute and it's porn. This is not a condemnation of this game. I want to be very clear about this. It is just saying that in relation to all of these other games, if you are going to rate it fairly, this one is pretty low on the list in terms of game design. It's like the art in it is fantastic. It's got sex with men and of all varieties and sex with like one or two women, I think. You know, it's not a ludonarrative masterpiece. I had fun with it. It was cute. I like porn. So do all of you. You can lie about that, but you'd be lying. But yeah, it was cute, and I was happy to support the developer. The art that they make is fun. Yeah, its description on itch.io includes the word sextroidvania. Yeah, it's a sextroidvania. That's exactly what it is. However, I will say, as a Metroidvania, its levels are relatively linear. There isn't that much non-linear progression. You don't actually get that many power-ups. It's mostly just a 2D platformer. It's kind of like Streets of Rage, but you jump sometimes. And even as that, it's not particularly great. But the art is good, so I hope that gives you a game to play if you want to play a porn game. I might put it above Bleach Rebirth of Souls. Yeah, I'll do that. There you go. I'll throw you a bone. If I were to rank it as a porn game, where would you put it? Still pretty low because I've played surprisingly good and mechanically deep porn games. Shout out to Paradiso Guardians, which is actually a Metroidvania, but with bara titty dudes. And I think I haven't really played this one. I've seen its animations though. Isn't there like a really high effort Stardew Valley porn game called like Cloud Meadow? I own it. I haven't really played it. And then there's Bastard Bonds, which is a porn game, but is actually like one of the most mechanically compelling and deep and ludonarratively interesting strategy tactics RPGs ever. So anyway, there are those. Okay, what else? Oh, there's two more games on this list. Fly Night was delightful. Like right here, I think. So, hold on, let me think about that. Yeah, Fly Night right there. Fly Night is a RuneScape aesthetic, Kingsfield-like, first-person dungeon crawler, also by a solo dev, I think, much like Labyrinth of the Demon King, but slightly better. Rishan says, how did I predict that delightful was the exact word I'd use for Fly Night? Listen, It was delightful. Great lore, great world, doesn't overstay its welcome, has a wide breadth of weapon variety, which really matters in a game like this. Damage types matter, unexpected. I feel like you can build lots of different ways. It's got a fishing minigame, which is a weird trend for this year for me. There's a few games on this list that have fishing minigames. I like, again, I know as I'm going through this list, I'm saying less and less about the games, but it's also because I want to preserve their magic. Fly Knight is cool. If you like dungeon crawlers and you like Souls-inspired games, if you like Hollow Knight, which it obviously takes a lot of influence from with its bug characters, and especially if you like, Kingsfield and Labyrinth of the Demon King, you should play Fly Knight. It is awesome. Really, really awesome game. Highly recommended. Okay, and I have one more game from 2025 on this list. And it is, where is it? Tainted Grail, Fall of Avalon is probably like right here. Tainted Grail, Fall of Avalon is a Arthurian Celtic myth inspired, Prydwen tale style Oblivion-like. It's a Bethesda WRPG. Blueprints is from this year. System Shock 2 Remaster is not going to be ranked on this year. Sorry, thank you for pointing out Blueprints. I thought I already ranked it because I talked about it. We'll get to it in a second. Tainted Grail, Fall of Avalon is a Bethesda RPG. If a Bethesda RPG was interested in having unique aesthetics and really good writing. However, its combat is still really janky, and it's a little unpolished. I hear that the new patch fixes a lot of stuff, and the DLC is really good. I haven't played the DLC yet. I'm still recording that, but I am pretty much through the main game, so I'm considering it beaten. Hollow says, so Morrowind. It is less like Morrowind and more like if Oblivion was actually really good. I hope that makes sense. It is more Oblivion than it is Skyrim. Maybe it's like if Skyrim was good, but not Morrowind, because Morrowind is not if Skyrim was good. Morrowind is if Morrowind was good. I can't explain it. This game is a Western RPG in the Oblivion and Skyrim mold, just better than Oblivion and Skyrim. And it's also Celtic as hell and Arthurian as hell, and I loved it, and I thought it was really sick, and it has amazing art design and art direction. Did you know that you wanted the creepy Forerunner people of British and Irish and Scottish myth to be H.R. Giger aliens? Because if you didn't know that you wanted that, newsflash, you do. Anyway, it should be no surprise to anyone that Blueprints is an S-tier puzzle game. It's really good. It's a puzzle roguelike that has a million layers. It's really hard, but when you learn to speak its language, this game is crack for puzzle freaks. This is a game for puzzle perverts. If you like The Witness, this game is gonna get you off. It's gonna crank you so good. It can be the most frustrating game of the year, but it's really great. I do think it is too long, and I think there is too much in it. I think it is incredibly... There's too much of the game. There's too many puzzles. At some point, we must draw the line, and the line is Blueprints. No more! Strong contender for Indie Game of the Year in a year without Expedition 33. Strong contender for Game of the Year in a year that would not have Expedition 33. Clair Obscur just clears, unfortunately. Unfortunately, that is just the reality of it. But in a world without Clair Obscur, there is a very good chance Blueprints would be my Game of the Year, or a puzzle game I am currently playing but have not completed, The Seance of Blake Manor. That is a honorable mention for this year. It will be ranked next year. When I get around to playing more of it, that game also fucks really hard. It's been a good year for puzzle games. And I think... Oh, it's not... I forgot one... No, I didn't forget one. I didn't forget one game. Okay. We are good. So that covers all of the 2025 new releases that I played in 2025. To recap my Game of the Year list. 11. I have 11 games on the list. Wow. Above A tier. That's pretty good, guys. It's a top-heavy list. We have a top-heavy list this year. That rules. I could probably be a little bit meaner to Fatal Fury and Fly Knight, but I could also be meaner to Peak, but I don't want to. I don't want to. Maybe I will. Here, let's do this. Let's do this. That's a better distribution. Blazer says, what about Life is Strange? Life is Strange is technically a 2024 game. So, ooh, actually, addendum to the thing, because someone pointed out that I played a game that I forgot. So it is actually 57 games played this year that came out, blah, 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 blah. Mario Kart World. This game sucks.